Good evening, and we're sorry for the delay. We will begin the Human Services Committee meeting Monday, June 5th at 6:31. I call this meeting to order. Will you please take roll?
Councilmember Herrick Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Ravel.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Present. So we have a quorum. Thank you so much. I'd like to begin with the approval of minutes from May 1st. Can I have
So moved.
All right. Questions? And open for any debate? No? Okay. I'll call for, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes from May 1st have been moved. We will begin with public comment for those who signed in. That's all I got. 1 second, we're just trying to see how long you get before you get the buzzer. So we just want to be
believe it's
clear.
Standing committees is 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So each person will be given 2 minutes. I will give you about a leniency of about 15 seconds, but then I cut the mic, so, all right? Okay. All right, we will begin with Kristen Renard. Am I saying that right? Kennard, I'm sorry.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kristen Kennard, and I am the Deputy Director at the Moran Center for Youth Advocacy. I am here tonight to strongly encourage the Human Services Committee to support the honorary street name sign application for Janet Alexander Davis. For more than 15 years, Ms. Davis has served on the Moran Center's Board of Directors. The Moran Center provides integrated legal, social work, and restorative services to disinvested youth, young adults, and their families in Evanston to improve their quality of life at home, at school, and in the community. I have had the honor of working alongside Ms. Davis for my last 14 years of work at the Moran Center. She has been a tireless advocate, providing a voice for the voiceless and truly deepening our commitment to advancing equity and racial justice both at the Moran Center and throughout the entire community. Whether it's a project for the Moran Center Board, one for the many other organizations that she has been a part of, or just her love and commitment to her community, Ms. Davis's lifelong dedication to Evanston has impacted so many. Ms. Davis has co-organized multiple mental health workshops and events that have specifically addressed the stigma that hinders so many individuals, specifically from the BIPOC community, from accessing much-needed mental health services. She is a fierce advocate for social and environmental justice, planning and implementing multiple events to spread awareness and education. In addition, Ms. Davis recently joined the Moran Center's Restorative Justice team as a community peace builder. Through this work, Ms. Davis is working with a team of youth and elders committed to furthering the Moran Center's vision of building a restorative community, a vision where relationships are centered and the community leads the way when it comes to repairing harm. Ms. Davis has dedicated her life to bettering the lives of Evanston residents through community activism and building a more equitable and restorative community. She is beyond deserving of this honor. Again, I encourage your support of Ms. Davis. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, I have Joy Ressler.
Good evening, council members. My name is Joy Anissa Russell, and I'm here in full support of Janet Alexander Davis receiving an honorary street name sign. I have known her since 2003, and I know that she has lived in the 5th Ward for the better part of the late 1940s, when the streets were not paved and there were no sidewalks. She, as Kristen Kennard has said, she's a fierce advocate for our community, and especially for our youth. I like to quote her from an article, her bio specifically from the Moran Center's website. She said in her own words, "My time in Evanston has always been interwoven in activism from childhood, and as I matured into adulthood. I did not slow down, did not sit down, but rather invested myself more fully into doing the right things in support of others. As a child of the 60s, Mrs. Davis fought for civil rights in Evanston Public Schools. She continued and expanded her activism and built a strong network with many Evanston activists. She became an advocate for youth and a mover and a shaker for better education for children, especially those affected by poverty. She continues her work in ensuring equity for all residents, and she has held various roles throughout her time in Evanston. She has been a member and a leader with Citizens Greener Evanston, Evanston United Neighbors, Habitat for Humanity, Shorefront, West End Area Block Club, just to name a few, and those are just some, including the Moran Center. In addition to all of these organizations that she's worked with, she has also won numerous civic awards. So with that said, I am in full support of her, and I celebrate her today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Prakash, am I saying that correct? Prakash? For whatever you decide. It's up to you. You can make it everything or nothing. And please say your name for me.
Prakash.
Prakash,
You can
thank you.
check cash also.
Cash?
Yeah.
I like that, but Prakash is your name, so
Yeah.
Prakash, please start.
I'm Prakash Mohanty. Good evening, everyone. I'm opposing the cigarette ban, the flavored tobacco, because after the COVID, we went through a very hard time, and slowly, the way we are getting our customers back, it's been very hard for us. So if you can consider that, not to ban the cigarettes, flavored tobaccos. That's my request.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. You didn't get the buzzer at all. Good job, thank you so much. Next, I would like to ask Derek Cabrera, am I saying that right? Cabrera,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
yes, you may begin, thank you.
I'm here to discuss HS3, ban on flavored tobacco, vape, and menthol products. Dear council members, today we'll hear discussions regarding this. We've already heard one regarding the restriction of the sale of flavored tobacco products. Unfortunately, necessary steps to truly make an impact on the negative health issues related to tobacco, nicotine, and e-cigarettes are not included in the proposed. We ask, as the American Heart Association, to eliminate all flavors in all tobacco products. The use of tobacco remains the nation's #1 cause of preventable death. In recent years, overall youth tobacco use in Cook County has continued to increase, largely driven by the youth e-cigarette use epidemic. Tobacco companies target youth in products that come in kid-friendly candy and fruit flavors such as cherry, grape jelly, cotton candy, pina colada, popcorn, and appletini. All sold in colorful packaging, which is designed to attract tweens and teens. Flavors hide the bad taste of tobacco and make it easier to try. Nearly 97% of youth e-cigarette users report using flavored products, while most report that flavored products are a key reason for their use. More than 8 in 10 youth who have ever used tobacco products started with flavored products, which is why all flavored product cigarettes should be eliminated. We thank you for this, and we hope that you recognize that as Evanston, you are a pioneer in this space, and we hope that you further do that. Thank you very much for your time, and we have some of our health partners that have committed some statements online in writing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, Don Ziegler. I think I'm just, can I just say first names? I'm messing names up. Say your names. Don, okay, but what's your full name?
Don Ziegler.
Okay, I said it right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Don Ziegler, Chair of the Evanston Health Advisory Council, Chair of the Illinois Advocacy Committee of the American Heart Association, and Adjunct Associate Professor at UIC School of Public Health. I strongly support banning all flavored tobacco products in Evanston. The tobacco companies know that smoking pure tobacco is harsh, so they modify their products to entice new customers with a multitude of flavors, menthol, mint, wintergreen, vanilla, whatever. And that these mask the nasty taste in order to get our youth back again as addicted long-term customers. Massachusetts took action in 2020 with a total ban on all flavored tobacco products and has seen declines in adult smoking rates and overall sale of cigarettes, including menthol and e-cigarettes. It hasn't put retail stores out of business, and the ban didn't increase minority communities' negative interactions with law enforcement. I have breaking news. I have just learned 2 hours ago that the U.S. Conference of Mayors today at its annual meeting in Columbus, Ohio, approved a resolution that supports prohibiting all flavored tobacco products, including flavored e-cigarettes, menthol cigarettes, and flavored cigars, just as what we are proposing now. So let's continue our proud Evanston tradition in public health and do what the U.S. Conference of Mayors and our own health department recommend: a total ban on all flavored tobacco products. Other communities in the state of Illinois will follow our lead as they have in the past. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, I have Ms. Patty Reese.
Good evening. I am Patty Cherry Reese, and thank you for the opportunity to support the naming of the 1700 block of Leland Avenue to honor Janet Alexander Davis. Growing up, I lived in the 1800 block of Hartree, and Janet lived in the 1700 block of Leland. Janet is my lifelong friend. This evening, I would like to share with you why we support the naming of the 1700 block of Leland Avenue to honor Janet Alexander Davis. Janet loves the city of Evanston and the community, and she has always worked and continues to work to make Evanston, the community, a place for all. For the community, as Patrick Keenan Devlin, Executive Director at the Moran Center, or members of the Evanston Environmental Justice Coalition, about Janet's commitment and efforts. Janet is involved in the community. When the McGaw YMCA celebrated the Emerson Street YMCA for its historic significance, my husband Robert and I reached out to Janet to serve on the committee because we knew if Janet is on your team, she would make a difference, and she did. It was a wonderful community celebration for all of Evanston, and we still thank Janet today for her involvement. In the 5th Ward, Janet participates in many ward activities. She is continually working to improve the lives of the residents. As former Alderman Dolores Holmes or Alderman Bobby Burns, they know Janet and her efforts for all of the residents. Leland Avenue. Remember, Janet grew up on Leland Avenue. Today, she is active in the block club. She's a worker, a doer. That's who Janet is. Ask her neighbors, either new in Evanston is up to 10 years, or longtime neighbors of 30-plus years. Their response will be the same: a great neighbor. She cares. She reaches out. Janet supports. Janet is a supporter of the Evanston community, the 5th Ward, Leland Avenue. Because of her efforts, I ask and we ask that we support the naming of the 1700 block of Leland Avenue to honor Janet Alexander Davis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was getting worried that time was running out, and my mom would get me if I cut you off.
Oh, goodness. I thank you.
No, you made it. All right, next we will have Rick Nelson.
Good evening to the committee.
Good evening.
I'm also speaking tonight in support of Janet Alexander Davis. I've worked closely over quite a few years with Janet on multiple volunteer efforts and strongly support the proposed street name in her honor. There are many reasons Janet should receive this honor, but I thought I would highlight 3 areas in particular tonight. First, Janet has dedicated decades of her life to her volunteer work in Evanston. There isn't enough time to list all the causes that she's worked with over her lifetime. But however, currently at the age of 80, Janet is co-chair of Environmental Justice Evanston, a board member of the Moran Center, an advocate pushing for the best design practices to be used in building the new Fifth Ward School, an active member of the West End Block Club, and is involved with numerous other activities. Janet has said that she will keep going in her volunteer efforts for as long as she is able, which shows how committed she is and still making a difference at the age of 80. She's truly a role model for other volunteers who want to make a long-term impact in Evanston. The second reason that Janet is so deserving of this street naming honor is her lifelong focus on achieving justice for others, whether that be racial, environmental, criminal, or economic justice. Her efforts began as a young woman marching in the 60s for a variety of causes, including protesting lynchings and other violence perpetrated against Black Americans, marching to highlight solidarity between Black and Jewish people in their joint fight against discrimination, and protesting against the efforts of those trying to suppress voting. Now here we are 60 years later, and Janet is still fighting for justice in many of the initiatives she works on today, constantly fighting for fairness and equitable treatment for everyone. The third reason Janet deserves this honor is her connection to and love for Evanston. I think as we also heard earlier, Janet's family has resided in Evanston since the 1930s. The house she and James live in today was bought by her grandmother and uncle 75 years ago. And I think it's noteworthy that this house is on the block that is proposed to be named for Janet. Janet grew up in Evanston, went to school here, and has lived in Evanston for all of her life. Janet has said she loves Evanston and its people, and all her actions on behalf of the city and its citizens are proof of her strong bond with the city of Evanston. So for these reasons and many others that could not be communicated in the time available, the Human Services Committee should give due consideration to approving the street naming for Janet Alexander Davis. She absolutely deserves this honor for all that she has given to her neighbors and the city during her 80 years in Evanston.
Thank you.
And if I can maybe just squeeze out my
2
15
seconds.
seconds? Okay.
Yep.
I don't know if she was able to call in, but I know that City Council member Dolores Holmes wanted to.
She's on our list.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure about that.
Yep.
And two other people, Jerry Garl and Carolyn Lehman, couldn't make it tonight, and they actually wrote letters, and hopefully those letters got to everybody here.
Yes, we received communication.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, Ina. Can you say your last name for me?
Ina Melnikov.
Ina Melnikov.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'm grateful that our mayor allowed me this opportunity. My name is Ina Melnikov. Nice to meet you. I'm a little bit caught by surprise that I would be given a chance to talk, but I'm happy for this opportunity, grateful. I live at 910 Oakton at the Oakton Gables condominium building. It's a historic landmark building on the intersection of Ridge and Oakton. I live here with my husband since 2003. In about 2018, the new condominium association board was elected, and a new group of leadership came to the management situation, and they produced a number of changes. Some are quite beneficial for the building, and some turn out to be quite regrettable, such as, for example, we live on the high first floor, and the garden apartment downstairs was altered to the extent that they created this suspended ceiling, pretty much like here, with openings that do not lead to the ventilation pipes, but absorbing all the air, brings all the air combined with cooking and heat upstairs to our condominium. So during the heating system, that is during 9 months of the year, cooking smells combined with marijuana amplified by the heat are brought directly to our apartment condominium that makes it smell like a hot dog eatery. So around 7 o'clock, our days for 4-pass year starts from the really nauseous smell, and our health is compromised by that. Our attempts to change something to bring this matter to the condominium association meetings ended with nothing. They don't meet anymore for about a year. We read a petition among the condominium owners. We received no reply. They dismissed the management company, and our attempts to even talk to the people downstairs, they are renters, not the owners, met very unfortunate response. We received a letter from the lawyer of the condominium association, inspired by the board, cease and desist type of thing, don't harass thy neighbor. And I'm asking for the members of this commission and the city council and the mayor to assist us in this situation. We don't know what to do and where to go any further. We called the Department of Health and Human Services, Health Department of City of Evanston. The inspector showed up, and she identified the smell in the common area. She said that Clean Air Act delineates, not to create clean, nauseous smells in the common area. There is a staircase. And so she did identify this smell at the staircase. It was pretty early in the morning. But the Clean Air Act does not address the clean air in this condominium. So it's definitely pretty desperate and unhealthy situation, life-threatening situation. My husband has been diagnosed with asthma. And like years ago, our previous condominium association produced like changes in response to the smoke of the grills. And so they posted this sign. The Clean Air Act regulates only the common area. This is not what I wanted to say. So to make the story short, this pretty much I wanted to present this situation unhealthy, threatening to our life, threatening to our health, contradicts to the Clean Air Act, and it reflects pretty negatively on our quality of life. And I don't think it agrees with the Illinois state and Evanston regulations. I hope you can help. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bonnie Lockhart.
Good evening. I am here also to support the naming of Leland Avenue for Janet Alexander Davis. Phenomenal, remarkable, amazing, outstanding, extraordinary, fantastic, marvelous, exceptional, mentor, committed, hardworking. These are just a few words to describe Janet Alexander Davis. Her determination to improve, maintain, and uplift the Fifth Ward, where I also happen to live, and the city of Evanston are unparalleled. I had the privilege of meeting her 26 years ago when she was a campaign chairman for me, and then 16 years ago, she again was campaign chairman for me, and I won, and I know it was because of Janet Alexander Davis. She has been working in the community for her entire life, and she is very good at it. And so right now, she just celebrated 80 years of life, and she was still on the Environmental Justice Committee as well as other things. And so I want to say thank you to Janet. I want to say thank you to Evanston, and bravo for you giving her this honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Jacobson, are you online? Emily? Okay, I'll circle back and see. Thomas Brighton?
Madam Chair, this is Thomas Bryant.
Okay, yes.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Thomas Bryant, and I am the Executive Director of the National Association of Tobacco Outlets, a national retail trade organization with member stores located in Evanston. I'm speaking tonight in opposition to a possible flavored tobacco ban ordinance. An ordinance banning all flavored tobacco would also prohibit products which the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has authorized for sale because the agency has determined that certain tobacco products are appropriate for the protection of the public health. These products authorized for sale by the FDA include nicotine lozenge products, low nicotine cigarettes, and other smokeless tobacco products to be shown to be less harmful. Preventing these kinds of products from being sold means that adults who want to transition away from smoking cigarettes and cigars to less harmful products would not be able to purchase these products in Evanston stores. Also, a complete ban on all flavored tobacco products will shift sales from the city's licensed retailers to unregulated illicit sellers over which the city has no control. And these sellers will sell tobacco products to anyone, including youth, who has cash. Moreover, Evanston residents will simply drive to neighboring cities to buy their preferred tobacco products. In addition, the FDA is now finalizing a new nationwide regulation that would ban the sale of all menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars, and the regulation is supposed to be finalized by August, just 2 months from now. It is also important to note that the FDA has denied the marketing of more than 25 million individual electronic cigarette and nicotine vapor products, the vast majority of which are flavored, and they needed to be removed from the market. With the FDA taking these actions and the likelihood of creating an illicit market, which would be detrimental to the public health, we ask that the City of Evanston not proceed with a flavored tobacco ban ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there a Ritesh online? Ritesh? Okay, I'll come back. Adrian Vitale? Adriana Vitale online? No. Asif? Mahmood? Asif? Is there an Asif? Okay. Camille Cummings?
Hello. Good evening. My name is Camille Cummings, and I'm a member of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. We advocate for the Black community and other communities of color who are often left out of life-saving public health legislation. I really thank you for considering this item that for decades has negatively impacted African Americans and other vulnerable populations. 45,000 African Americans die each year from tobacco-related diseases. And as a previous caller mentioned, that is a lot of deaths. That's more deaths than alcohol, AIDS, car accidents, illegal drugs, murders, and suicides combined. Strong citywide tobacco policies protect African Americans, young people, and the greater community from big tobacco's predatory marketing tactics, which include making cheap tobacco products easily accessible for price-sensitive populations. Statistics show that the commercial tobacco industry, targets the Black community with more advertisements, more lucrative promotions, and easier access to cheaper cigarettes compared to other communities. Because of these predacious practices over the past 50 years, more Black lives have been disproportionately lost due to tobacco-related diseases like heart attacks, lung cancer, and strokes. With that said, studies show that people who smoke tobacco products are more likely to quit when tobacco prices increase. The African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council strongly encourages you to protect the health of Evanston residents, over the profits of the tobacco industry by ending the sale of all flavored tobacco products. This will interrupt predatory marketing tactics that commercial tobacco companies use that disproportionately impact poor communities, marginalized groups, young people, and communities of color. Thank you again for considering this item.
Thank you. Mike Vassilko, are you on the line for this meeting? Okay. And next, Alderman Holmes, are you still on the call?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Harris and members of the Human Services Committee. Director Obo from the Health Department. And first, I want to apologize because it was my intention to be there in person. I'm speaking tonight for my friend, my colleague, my neighbor, my everything, Janet Alexander Davis, in the street naming. I've known Janet, I want to say all of my life, but I think I'm 6 years older, so I'll just say all of her life. And we've grown up here in the Fifth Ward together, and I've watched her over the years. But the 12 years that I served as alderman, Janet was my right hand, and we did something that had not been done before in the Fifth Ward. We developed a newsletter that Janet really ran for us, working with Dina Robinson. She was our everything in terms of helping my team, and I had a team the whole 12 years that I was alderman, because you can't do this job alone. But Janet was our leader, and she is that way in everything that she does. And for those people who now protest about the transfer station, when we discovered what had happened and statewide with it, and it wasn't a city problem, Janet Alexander Davis and Tanya Noble were two of the first people who really volunteered to start to work on environmental justice for Evanston. And that has continued over these years. I'm very proud of everything that she's ever done. And I am absolutely thrilled that the city is going to say thank you by naming the street, the 1700 block of Leland, for Janet, because it's so deserving. You've heard from everyone the kinds of things that she's done over the years, but to know her and to work with her is just such a pleasure. So I am happy to have been able to do that, close and up personal. And I'm happy that we share the same block club. We belong to the West End Area Block Club, which has been active since the 1960s. So we go way back. We are very good at being neighbors and taking care of one another. And we want to pass that along. And Janet continues to do that. She's 80, I'm 86. So we old people are still doing what we can where we can. And thank you for doing it. We appreciate you so very much. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person.
Thank you so much for taking your time. I'll go back. Is Ritesh on the line? Adriana? Asif? And Mike Vasilko. Seeing none coming to the screen, we will move forward. Thank you. We will now deal with items for consideration. Can I have someone present HS1?
I will move item HS1, Resolution 36R23, approval of an honorary street name sign designation.
It has been moved by Councilmember Reed and seconded by Councilmember Ravel. I see discussion for Councilmember Reed.
Thank you. I have not had the honor of knowing Ms. Alexander for 80 years, as Alderman Holmes has. It's been a much shorter period. I think the first time we met was in 2015, working with Nina Caven and other folks to organize an event in the Fifth Ward at Twiggs Park to celebrate our youth and art and focus on environmental issues. And that's really, in the last decade, the work that I've been able to observe Ms. Alexander Davis fearlessly take on. I learned about the waste transfer station and the issues from the station from Ms. Davis, and I've just had the honor of just watching someone who has had a lifelong dedication to the Fifth Ward, to the Black community, to environmental issues, do their work. And so Ms. Alexander Davis is certainly someone who I see as a local hero and an inspiration. So this is a small token, but a huge token, a way that we can really begin to recognize a lot of the work that she's done over the years. So thank you. Looking forward to voting for this.
Thank you. Councilmember Ravel.
Well, I'm really delighted that we're going to be taking this step tonight to recognize Janet Alexander Davis. I've worked with Janet over the years on environmental justice. That's how I got to know her and some of you in the audience. And so I knew her as a fearless advocate for environmental justice, and I watched her just do amazing work on that subject. But it was through reading the long material in the packet tonight that I became more, I could appreciate all these other things that she's done in the community and all these other ways she's really made such a powerful difference in the community. So I'm really glad that we're going to be able to recognize her many, many contributions over many, many years. So I'd be happy to support that.
Thank you so much. And I was very worried this morning when I looked at my city email because I had tons of emails. I said, what do we do now? And what that was many letters of support, and I'm not going to go into them, but many letters of support for Miss Alexander Davis. I said, we'll get that one right. But I had at least 7 letters of support in my mail for her today. So with that said, are there any other questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye. It is a unanimous decision that this street will be named for Miss Alexander Davis. Thank you all for your time.
I believe this goes to council next?
Say it again?
Goes to council next?
It'll go to council,
Yeah.
but we're council. Let's be real about that.
We'll make
So-
sure it happens. So.
Yes, we will move this forward. As Councilmember Reed said, it's just a small token of appreciation, but it is a way that the city recognizes those that have done well by the city. And when you do well by Evanston, that resounds out past the city of Evanston. You've done well by the world. So again, I don't know if she's on, but Miss Alexander Davis, thank you for your service. And keep on, keep on.
We'll have to make sure she's here at council so she can hear all of these kind words.
Yes, thank you all so much. Next, we have HS2. Somebody like to move?
I will move item HS2, ordinance 57023, amending City Code Section 9-8, creating the Safe Storage Act.
Second. We all seconded. Okay. It has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Reed? And,
We'll have Mayor Biss.
well, that's why I was looking. Did he want to? I didn't.
I'll be real quick here. I feel like the roll call looks good now, and I don't want to mess it up. But but I did just want to thank a few people: our law department, Allison, the Giffords Law Center, and Mercedes Flowers, who's a Northwestern Kellogg MBA, a recent Kellogg graduate. Here on her own time, no longer need to be here for credit. The basic idea here is to build on an existing Cook County ordinance, which requires safe storage of firearms, essentially when minors are present and at risk of being injured, which is a good start. But other states, like, for example, New York, go much further and use that model to require safe storage in a variety of other contexts. And so essentially this proposal borrows from the different kind of strengthenings that other states have utilized. We believe this is not only the right thing to do, but we feel a very high degree of confidence that this is legal. This is not going to buy us a lawsuit that we can't defend. And we think it could save lives. So Mercedes knows a lot more than me and is certainly here to run circles around me in terms of a lot of the context and legalities and technicalities. And I just wanted to introduce her to the committee and make her available for questions.
Thank you. Would you like to step up and say anything?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Mercedes, as Mayor Biss mentioned. It's been my privilege to work on this for the last 6 months, this among other initiatives, and I think he said it well. There's not too much to add, but I think This is based on the sort of specialist legal support from Giffords Law Center in combination with Corporation Counsel. This is, I believe, a best practice ordinance based on good bits and parts from across the country. But thank you for considering it.
Thank you for putting your time into it. Councilmember Reed.
Thank you. I want to thank you and Mayor Biss and everyone who took time to craft this and put it forward. I think everyone here is a co-sponsor of this. This seems right for Evanston. I do have a few questions, though, because I've heard some concerns. So can you go into detail about the mechanism that would make a gun safely stored?
It's a great question. I'll preface now that any questions that I can't personally answer here on premises, I'm happy to work with the appropriate folks.
Yeah.
Sorry. And if that's your answer, then forget everything I'm saying. But yeah, and if nothing can be answered here, then certainly we can go back and figure out an answer.
No, it's fine. So the way that the ordinance is written is there are certain items that you can purchase, and it talks about a trigger lock or cable lock, a locked container or a locked gun room. So the ordinance specifically spells out those as what would make it secure. The county ordinance, on the other hand, for example, just says that it has to be held securely, and it gives options, but our ordinance specifically lays out what those options should be.
And again, I don't want this to be twisted. I am a co-sponsor and fully support this. But some of the concerns that I've read are under the current interpretation by our current Supreme Court or previous Supreme Courts. Gun ownership is not just about what folks may traditionally interpret in the Second Amendment to be about protecting us from a tyrannical government, but there's an interpretation that gun ownership is about protecting us from each other, unfortunately. And given that, do we know, so given that interpretation, guns are meant to protect folks' homes under the current interpretation. So how does this potentially hamper someone's ability from using their legal firearm to potentially protect their home? Do we know how long it takes to maybe unlock some of these trigger locks?
It's an excellent question, and it's not the first time it's been asked because it is such an excellent question. According to research from the Giffords Law Center, and I can get you exact numbers if you like, but they've basically found that there are many options for storage, right? We are specific in the language in this proposal. However, there is still a litany of options for which, with which you could store your gun. And many, many, many of those options, which you can freely choose under this proposal, would allow you to not only access your firearm quickly in the matter of seconds, but also even access it, say, in the dark, right? Like there are many options that should allow for that. Of course, it is up to the purchaser of said safe storage implement to kind of make those choices that would facilitate whatever usage they anticipate. But there are certainly options that would both fit the law or fit the ordinance and also fit the need that you're describing.
Thank you. And does the current ordinance allow for, I think they're out there now, biometric, firearms that maybe are only activated by a certain fingerprint? Would that kind of firearm qualify as safely stored under this ordinance?
It should, and correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, it should.
I think that would qualify as an engaged trigger lock.
Okay. And then how, okay, well, for me, those answer my questions. I'm really supportive of this. Was there a point when developing this where we felt like we could have gone further, but chose not to because of maybe constitutional concerns or some other. Is there something more that we could do, but it leads us into a slightly gray area?
So my opinion is, as we were putting this together, we truly did look across the country to see what are other cities, say in places like California or other states, as the ones Mayor Biss mentioned, doing. And in this, we really did, and I think patchwork has a negative connotation to it, but I mean it positively, in that we were able to take sort of the strongest language and the strongest pieces and put them together. And so in my knowledge, I believe that this is kind of cutting edge and is quite strong.
Thank you. And last question for Council Cummings, if you don't have this off.
Council,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I think Mercedes' response is focused on this topic. We looked at a bunch of things, and there are really attractive, frankly, to my own views, ideas that are being advanced in places like San Jose that we ultimately were really concerned about the outcome of a lawsuit and decided to put on the back burner for that reason. So it's not the case that we didn't encounter any ideas that we were worried about what the Supreme Court would do to. But in this safe storage area, we pretty much picked the best of what we saw around the country.
And what was the San Jose measure?
So I believe the San Jose measure is a requirement of insurance, correct? Or liability insurance?
That's true. And it's not to, it's not to say that the San Jose doesn't have its problems, right? I think the spirit of what Mayor Biss is saying is exactly correct, that there are, of course, if you were to look across the country and see the various options, sure, there are things that we wish we could do, but realize would probably or could run into legal trouble or otherwise under Illinois state law or the Supreme Court should a battle ensue. It is.
Can you, what was the comment?
It was a liability insurance mandate, and to not to contradict Mayor Biss, but there is the jury is a little bit out on specifically San Jose style, but there are. It would just require gun owners in the community to have liability insurance for their firearm.
Thank you, and that sounds pretty nice. Council Cummings, I vaguely remember at some point having some heart palpitations about a New York gun law that went before the Supreme Court recently, and I think it had to do with storage of weapons. This was within the last 2 years. I mean, it was since this current composition of the Supreme Court. Maybe Stan's our newest member.
I don't recall it being about storage, but I can look it up and get back to you about I do recall that case in New York, but I don't believe it had anything to do with storage, but I'll double check.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for the work. Thank you for the detailed explanations here.
Yes, I so appreciate the work for personal reasons as well. I love the thought of the liability because a gun creates, you need to have that insurance. We can't drive a car off the lot until we have insurance. You can't buy a home until you have insurance. And those usually don't have the same ending as having a gun in your house at some point. So thank you so much for this work. Are there any other questions? None? Any other? No? Okay, at this time, I'd like for us, I call for the vote, and I'd like that to be a roll call, please.
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns? Councilmember Reed? Councilmember
Aye.
Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye. So ordinance 57023 passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, we will begin the work of making Evanston safer, keeping us safe, and we appreciate the work, and we will keep working on this. So thank you all so much. So we are now at items for discussion, HS3.
I will move item HS3, ban on flavored tobacco, e-cigarettes or vape products and menthol products.
It has been moved and properly seconded for discussion on ban on flavored tobacco, vape, and menthol products. Again, when I looked at my mail the past couple of days, I said, I have received quite a few emails, some in favor and some not in favor of this decision. So I did want to go on record and say that I have received about 8 emails, about half and half on this discussion. Councilmember Reed.
Thank you. This is a referral that I believe Councilmember Ravel and Councilmember Hedikonis, maybe when someone, a number of my colleagues here co-sponsored. We worked with the American Heart Association to draft some of the language that will be before us in an ordinance. And I've received a number of emails and phone calls, too, about this. In fact, a number of the gas station owners in my ward reached out through one representative to lodge their concerns about this ordinance. And one thing we have to understand as we're moving, I believe we're going to move forward with this, as we move forward with this is, the gentleman from the Tobacco Retail Association and other folks, they're right? Folks will travel to go get cigarettes elsewhere, and they may buy their gas occasionally elsewhere, but some folks will stop smoking. And as more and more communities join us in this, right, I believe Chicago has already banned flavored e-cigarettes. These products just will not be available for folks. And it was mentioned in public comment, we have 45,000 deaths a year, I think, and this is just, I believe, for African Americans, related to smoking. We know that nicotine causes our blood vessels to literally stiffen. Smoking causes high blood pressure, heart disease, and particularly with flavored e-cigarettes, more and more young folks are starting to smoke, where we were seeing a lot of progress with young folks, moving away from tobacco use. With the introduction of these e-cigarettes, we're seeing more and more. I think the number is it's back up to 1 in 4 high schoolers are consuming tobacco at some point particularly because of these flavored vapes. I think this is from the American Heart Association. 8 in 10 youth who have ever used tobacco say that they started with flavored products. We don't allow flavored cannabis products. You can't have strawberry flavored weed or cannabis. You can't have many other products that have artificial flavors that make them more enticing, particularly to youth. And we shouldn't allow that with tobacco because we know tobacco is one of the more harmful substances in our community. Two, I'd like to address, some folks have, said this seems hypocritical for Reed to put forward a measure that would ban the sale of these products in our community. And I want to be clear that in no way are we criminalizing anyone's possession of these items. We're not saying that if you are an adult and you're walking around with, menthol cigarettes or flavored e-cigarette, that you're going to have any interaction from our police department. But what we are going to say is, and what I do think is an appropriate role for local government, is that these harmful products cannot be sold in our community. And by adopting this, we will have to say that these harmful products not being sold in our community are more important to us than the profits of tobacco retailers. And I think this council is prepared to say that definitively. I will close with this, that, this is, I am someone who has consumed tobacco, particularly flavored e-cigarettes and menthol cigarettes. So I personally understand the addictive nature of this, and I also personally understand that sometimes, for folks who are on the the periphery of smoking, something like this may be the nudge for those folks to quit. Similar to what was noted, that the increase in price for some folks will be the nudge to quit. And I think this will be a nudge for some folks, not everyone. And so I will say this lastly, that I think we need to do more in our community to move more and more folks away from smoking. And I'll highlight that, particularly with the menthol cigarettes for the Black community, we know that African Americans in our community have shorter lifespans than other folks in our community. We know that particularly with menthol cigarettes, that African Americans are far more likely to smoke menthol cigarettes. In fact, menthol cigarette use among current smokers over the age of 12 in the U.S., 84% of menthol cigarette users are African American. This is from the American Heart Association. I think it's, and in the past, and it was mentioned by a public commenter, when laws, changing the rules around cigarette use have been adopted, quite often they do leave out menthol cigarettes. They leave out the substances that are disproportionately used by the Black community. And I think in Evanston, we need to make sure that we are doing our part to help with smoking cessation. Last pitch here is one of the, a lot of new research has been done on psilocybin, and it has been shown to be powerful for smoking cessation, particularly with cigarette or other drug abuse. And so I just have to throw that in there, that there's opportunities for us to take this even further and use new substances to help people move away from these really harmful substances. And there are 0 psilocybin deaths per year, whereas there's 45,000 tobacco deaths for African Americans per year. So thank you.
You were getting close to getting buzzed. Thank you so much. Councilmember Heracottis and then Councilmember Ravel.
So I too received some outreach from people in the community, and most of the folks coming from our healthcare professionals who are very much in favor of this. Just before our meeting, I forwarded this to Councilmember Harris. This came in, I think this was a public comment we received. A letter from Dr. Emma Daisy, who's the president-elect of the Illinois Academy of Family Physicians. We also received, American Heart Association, Lung Association. I think when we have all our healthcare advocates telling us this is a good thing to do, I think we should do it. And so I'm definitely in favor of this.
Councilmember Ravel.
Well, I just want to mention our E-Plan that found, just really shocking disparity in life expectancy for our African-American residents. And, so this is, one thing that we can do, I think, to try to address that, really serious problem. And I guess, so this is for discussion. So basically what we're doing is encouraging staff to come back with an actual ordinance for us, and I would just recommend that we make the language in that ordinance as broad as possible and talk about all flavored tobacco products, so that we don't specify, that we don't single out the, I think unless, go ahead.
Are you finished? You're done. Are you done, Councilmember Ravel? Okay, thank you so much. Councilmember Reed.
I hear Councilmember Ravel's concern about banning all flavored tobacco products. I think what is primarily being the vehicle for introductory tobacco use for our youth are the flavored e-cigarettes, and I do think it makes sense to hone in on that, as well as the menthol cigarettes, which we know are disproportionately used by the Black community. I personally not enthusiastic about a full flavored tobacco ban. but, yeah, if we get there, I do think there's a balance between trying to make sure that the next generation isn't addicted to these substances and allowing, some 50 or 45-year-old who's been smoking to continue to live their life as they so choose, but trying our best to make sure that the next generation is not becoming addicted to this harmful substance. And, if I'm all for it, but I look at other substances in our community that are far more harmful, like alcohol, that we allow, and I just think there's a nice balance here to be threaded.
Councilmember Ravel.
Well, I'm just listening to our many health professionals who've really urged us to make this ban as comprehensive as possible. So that's why I'm suggesting that that's how we word it.
I'd like to call Allison, our policy coordinator, up.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Allison Leipziger, Policy Coordinator. I just wanted to hone in on this question a little bit because for staff, we are looking for some direction, and menthol is taken out specifically or mentioned specifically in the referral. So are we looking at only menthol smoking products? Are we looking at menthol chewing? Like, there's so many different kinds of tobacco products that, from a policy perspective, it might be easier to expand it and then take out anything that you want to allow, as opposed to name the things that are excluded. But we just need a little bit of direction about exactly how far we're going, because, again, the breadth of products out there is really, large, and so we kind of have to figure out where we want to draw that line.
And if I can respond to the...
Hold on one second. So, as chair, I try to stay quiet as long as I can and give the rest of the team. I think we should start as broad as possible and then nickel that away, because what I don't want to do, and we seem to do, is come back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. That's not the best use of staff time. That's not the best use of council time. So that is my direction at this moment, but I will allow Councilmember Reed to speak.
Yeah, as far as the menthol products, I envision anything across the board, whether it's chewing tobacco, any menthol, I don't know if the word is mentholated, I don't know, mentholated product would be included in the ban.
But not any other flavored chewing tobacco?
What I'm hearing from the committee is, and this is the democratic process.
No, yeah, it's just for clarification.
Yeah, okay. Well, I would say, no, not all flavored tobacco products. Certainly all flavored e-cigarettes.
Okay.
I am curious if, I guess, like the, yeah, so certainly all flavored e-cigarettes is my intention, the committee. This is the democratic process. If the committee wants to go further, that certainly is the prerogative. And as I said, all menthol products across the board.
Councilmember Ravel?
Could we ask, Don, were you the one who mentioned the U.S. Conference of Mayors? Do you know what the wording was of what their resolution is?
While he's looking, I just want to say that, from the American Heart Association, we do have language that covers, is broad.
Resolution was passed today at their annual meeting, and the last is, therefore be it resolved that the United States Conference of Mayors supports prohibiting all flavored tobacco products, period. Would you like copies?
May I ask a question while you're up there, or you can pass that? Thank you.
Yeah, we have one. Thank you so much. Councilmember Reed and then Councilmember Ravel.
Thank you. Mr. Ziegler, nice to see you. I'm curious on the topic of, because the reason we're discussing this is we want fewer and fewer people in our community to consume tobacco. Right. And I'm maybe breaking a rule that I learned from my fake law school, which is don't ask a question that you don't know the answer to. But have you read or are you familiar with any research on the use of, for example, psilocybin for smoking cessation? Is that something you're familiar with any of the research on?
I'm not as familiar with some of the, I know that the nicotine substitutes are promoted, but they're not proven by any, they're not recommended by health authorities. I'm talking about the
specifically
e-cigarettes. E-cigarettes are not there's no evidence that they are effective in reducing. All you're doing is substituting one source of nicotine for another.
Yeah, I was specifically discussing psilocybin, which is commonly referred to as, mushrooms.
Yes.
So I'm going to get point of order.
Well,
We're
this
not
is about
going to push
smoking
that.
cessation.
We're not going to push that agenda.
Chair-
So you
Chair,
got about
hold on.
30 seconds.
Chair.
As chair, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to run this, and then we're going to run it back.
Okay, I can't speak to that particular product and the evidence there. I don't know.
Are you familiar with any of it? Okay. And I just want to be clear, I get that, but what we're discussing here is we're trying to get fewer and fewer people in our community to smoke cigarettes, tobacco, and there's a lot of research to show that psilocybin has been extremely successful for smoking cessation, and so I think these two items are related in that vein. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ravel. You're done? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Seeing no other questions, I think we have you been provided with enough information? Okay. Uh-oh. You'd like to speak? Director Ike.
Good day, everyone. I just wanted to know what the direction was, but it appears that we know what the direction is here. It sounds like we are going to make it more comprehensive and bring it back to the Human Services Committee the next time we meet. I believe that's what the direction is.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right, seeing no other business before us, I adjourn the meeting at 7:39. Thank you all.